working with such a great group of people like Marie and others throughout the area of Washtenaw. And we're excited to continue to look at ways that we can collaborate with the Commission on Aging and the Washtenaw Board of Commissioners in general. So I can share my contact information or what have you, but excited to get to know you all better. Thank you.
Jadan, would you mind one more time saying where you're calling in from? We started the recording a few seconds late. I'm not sure.
I'm in Northville, Michigan. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to raise their hand? All right, I will close public comment. Commissioners, any response to public participation? Great, I'll close that too, and we'll move on to the approval of the June 6 minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Marta.
Support.
Any discussion? Great, then Katie, if you could do a roll call vote.
Okay, a roll call to approve the minutes from the June 2025 meeting. Marta Larson,
Yes.
Marie Grass,
Yes.
Margaret Reynolds,
Abstain.
Elizabeth Thompson,
Yes.
Phyllis Hertzig,
Yes.
Bruce Astrian,
Yes.
Brenda McKinney,
Yes.
Madden Litton,
Yes.
Annie Somerville.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes are approved.
Fantastic. All right, moving on to discussion items. First up, we have a presentation from Empower at Home. And Salma, I see you in the audience. I'm promoting you to panelist. While Salma is coming over, up next on the discussion list will be the subcommittee discussions, and in that we'll have senior millage updates as well, so that you have that to look forward to. Hi, Selma. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Do you have permission to share right now? Do you see that on your screen?
I do, yeah.
Okay, great. I'll turn it over to you if you could introduce yourself and then move through your presentation. We'll take questions at the end.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Salma Habash. I am a research project coordinator at the University of Michigan School of Social Work. And today I'm going to be presenting on a mental health program designed to improve the well-being of older adults. So I'll go ahead and begin by sharing my screen. Okay. Is that viewable for everyone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, I'm Sedna, I'm the coordinator, and the professor in charge is Dr. Shaolin Shawn. She is the principal investigator on the project, and she's been doing research in mental health and aging for the past decade. And I'm excited to share her innovative work on Empower at Home. So thank you to the commission and Marie for helping set this up and for allowing me to present today. So I'll go ahead and get started with a video that I'd like to play for everyone. Let's see if it works. There we go. So I'll go ahead and play this video just to kick us off.
Don't hear any sound. Should there be sound? When you shared your screen, did you also share audio?
I am doing that now. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay. Let's try that out. All right. So before I get into the research project design, I just want to make it known, I want to make our community partners known. So we're collaborating with Senior Resources, which is a area agency on aging in Muskegon, Ottawa, and Oceana County. We're also partnering with Hannon Center and Lori's Hands, which are organizations that serve Metro Detroit area. Carewell Services is another AAA agency in Calhoun and Berry County. And then we're also partnering with two New York agencies, Camden Life Center and University Settlement. All right, so what is Empower at Home? So at its core, it's an internet-based cognitive behavioral therapy intervention. So there are a total of 9 lessons. Each lesson takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. Clients will learn things like relaxation, mindfulness, ways to manage stress, coping, and also just ways to manage, difficult changes in their life. The Empower at Home program is specifically designed for older adults and the unique experiences. It's a self-help, self-paced online lessons that users can access at any point in time. It eliminates the need for travel, and all of it is structured and skills-based approach. So along with an online program, there is a workbook that clients would have that they can use to supplement the online program, because we've had people in the past mention that they would want some sort of physical element to it. So that's something that we've recently added, and we're actually current in the second phase of this trial, and I'll talk more about what that means later in this presentation. While there are many internet-based cognitive behavioral therapy programs out there, and perhaps Empower at Home stands out for the specifically designed nature for older adults. As far as I know, it's the only internet CBT program in the US that is truly centered around that. And it was developed with their needs in mind. So the actual online program is very easy to use. No computer or technology experience is required. And there's always going to be tech support on hand if anybody needs it. So I mentioned earlier that there are 9 lessons, but folks will have 10 to 12 weeks to work through it. So there is some flexibility. We always encourage our clients to take 1 lesson per week as they're going through it. And then along with the online program, they'll be speaking with a coach. And in this next slide, I'll talk about the 3 pillars of this research study. Okay, so I mentioned the 9 online lessons. There is the workbook that they would use, and then there's also the coaching element. So the community partners that we're working with, the staff members, we are currently training them as coaches. So some of them are students, some of them are case managers, some of them are social workers, and depending on the where the client lives, they'll be paired with a coach. So if they, let's say, live in Detroit and they heard about us through the Hannon Center, they'll be paired with a Hannon Center coach, which they happen to be social workers. This person will call them every week, ask them about what they've learned. They would help tailor the program to fit their situation and their needs. They'll help offer guidance. Also would like to consider them as like an accountability partner. So sometimes we've had clients, use the coaching call sessions to work through the program with the coach. And then there's some folks that would like to finish the online lesson before they meet with their coach, so they can have an opportunity to talk about it. So it really depends on the person. It looks different for everyone, but that's what the coaching is really meant for. All right. So this is what the web platform looks like. Um, so there's the home page, as you can see, there's the, oh, sorry. So we're on session 2 here. So very easy to navigate and pretty intuitive to the client. And the usability is something we prioritize heavily. We understand that technology can be challenging, especially for older adults based on what they've told us. And that's why we focus on the simplicity and aiming to make the experience as smooth as possible and user-friendly as possible. This screenshot shows the home page, the first page that the clients would see. And once they click on the orange button, they'll be redirected to the lesson. And I didn't mention this earlier, but in the lesson itself, they'll go through a series of videos, interactive exercises. Really, the program will get to know the client better and what their situation is like. So there are some questions specific to get a better understanding of what the client is needing. All right. Okay. So once the users are inside the session, they navigate. The navigation is pretty straightforward. So there's the next and the back button to ensure users feel confident navigating the platform. We use a video tutorial on how to start the program. And again, the coach will be there to help support them. We have something called a pre-session call. So before they even start the online program, we have a bit of an orientation and demo with the client. All of the design choices are intentional, and prioritizing ease of use and accessibility is something that was at our forefront when they initially developed this program, Dr. Shaolin Sean and the team. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the first phase of this trial. So we were able to test this online program with over 200 people. And in this graph, figure, you'll see that both groups started with similar depression scores. However, after 10 weeks and participation in Power at Home, the group experienced a significantly larger drop in their depression scores. In fact, half of them scored under 5, which is considered remission. And the randomized controlled trial that we did in the first phase a few years ago, this was completed in 2022 with over 70 older adults. We compared 2 groups, the treatment group represented by the yellow line, and which received the Empower at Home program right away, and the blue line represents our second group, which we also call as the waiting group. They wait for about a 10-week period of time before they're offered the online program and the coaching. Both groups are going to be provided the program and everything that comes with it. It's just a matter of when. Okay. And then on the right side of the screen here, you'll see some additional key statistics from analysis of over 250 participants. One highlight is that 90% of the participants completed the entire program, 91% satisfied with the program, and 93% would recommend it to someone in their life. Okay, so now I'm going to go through some testimonials of things that people have mentioned in the past trials. So some people have said that this program has been life-changing for them. Some have said that feel like they've changed so much and learned so much so that maybe their spouse or someone close in their life have noticed. And really, they made them feel more positive and improve their quality of life. Okay. Many participants also noted how easy the website is to navigate, and none of the 250 participants really mentioned or really experienced major technical issues. Okay. Because of the research study nature, there are certain eligibility criteria and requirements that clients have to meet before taking part. I should mention that we are sponsored by the National Institute of Health and National Institute of Mental Health. So clients must be 50 years or older, have mood concerns, or at least have mild depression. And we assess this through the patient health questionnaire. No, they should not have any sort of terminal illness or any unstable health conditions where they're consistently and frequently going to the hospital multiple times a month. No dementia or dementia-like symptoms, and we assess this through a cognitive screener during the screening phone call that we do. No current substance use or substance abuse issues. Um, not in crisis, not having any moderate to high suicidal risk. There are exceptions to this, and we assess this through a clinical assessment by our licensed social worker. And lastly, no intense outside therapy. And by that, I mean, if clients are receiving therapy more than once a month, that's something that would disqualify them from participating. Okay. All right. So now I'd love to share the opportunity with all of you. That's our website and our email address, and I'll be happy to provide that in the chat at some point. But ultimately, our mission is to make mental health treatment accessible, and, combat the everlasting epidemic among older adults with depression, loneliness, social isolation. So this is a program that we definitely want to make known to folks that are homebound, folks that are chronically ill and have ambulatory disabilities. This is something that they can do and participate in completely from their own home. And ultimately, we're wanting to enhance their independence and quality of life. And if you're interested in bringing Empower at Home to your community, or if you happen to know members that would really find something like this interesting and beneficial, I'd be happy to provide more information to them directly, or I'd be able to provide some promotional materials to the any senior centers that you're aware of. I actually am going to go to the Dexter Senior Center in the next couple of weeks to do a presentation. I have done presentations in the Calhoun and Berry County area for some of our community partners, so that's an option. So in this next slide, I'll show you some of our promotional materials that we offer. So we have some social media and print ads, business cards that we offer, and some flyers. And in the video earlier, it mentioned that we will compensate our clients for participating. So not particularly if they go through the online program and the coaching, that's not something that we would compensate them to do. It's the surveys that go along with their participation. So we may call them every 3 months to do a 40-minute phone survey. And for every survey that they complete, they can earn $30 for taking part. There's no cost, no travel needed to take part. And something else I'd like to mention, if clients don't have a device of their own, a computer or a tablet, we would provide that. So we would mail it to their home. They would use it for the entire duration of the program, and then we would set up the return shipping to have them return it. But the workbook that we offer is something that they get to keep and write in as much as they'd like. Okay.
A follow-up question to that. Do you also, if a senior doesn't have internet access in their home, so someone in a rural area, do you send them a device that has cellular capabilities so they could
Exactly.
Okay, great, great.
Thank you for bringing that up. I failed to mention that. So the tablet would come with cellular data, so they can access the program within their home or even on the go if they, we've had clients in the past say that they travel back and forth from houses or anything like that. So that's something that I would be able to utilize. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that concludes my presentation, and at some point I'll include our website and my contact information in the chat.
Thanks. We don't have a chat, but people can write this down
Okay.
now, and then we'll also be posting this on the Commission on Aging website so people have access to the information too. Any commissioners have questions, comments? Please raise your hand. Elizabeth.
I'm curious, what kind of referral options do you provide if in the course of this somebody discovers the need for or the desire for more ongoing assistance?
Yeah, so we do have a referral program. So there is a website that we would offer. So it really depends on the relationship that you have with the person that you're referring. So for example, we've had social workers outside of our community partners wanting to recommend this to their patients. So they would go through a HIPAA compliant platform to provide their contact information to us. they would do something called a pre-screening form. So they would do some initial questions like asking if they're in therapy, how old they are, things like that before they refer them to us. And let's say you're a client and you're going through the program yourself and you want to refer it to your friend. It's as simple as just giving us a call and providing their information, or even just providing the phone number to the person that's interested in it. So to answer your question, we do have a website you would go through to provide the client information. So it's safe and secure when you're referring the client that you're wanting to use the program.
I think that's great information. I think my question might have been a little unclear. Once somebody completes the program,
Yes.
if they desire further assistance,
I'm
what
sorry.
kind of
Okay.
referral process is it?
I apologize. Okay, so if someone is needing more intensive or maybe immediate treatment, that's something that we would have vetted and screened in the beginning. So we do some pretty in-depth questionnaires like the aside from the PHQ-9, we do some suicidal ideation assessments. We do some other more interview-like questionnaires. And depending on their need and what they're looking for, we may actually refer them out instead of offering this program to them. Because some clients may not receive the program right away, because I mentioned there's a control group. So initially, if they are needing more treatment, we would refer them to the community health, mental health authority in their service area. We would provide, if they are referred by an agency, we would reach out to the agency that referred them, so they are connected with resources that can more immediately assist them. And then at the end of the program, if they're needing more help, we would just provide that same resource. And again, depending on their referral source, we would reach out to the agency to see if they are connected with maybe counselors or other service providers. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Sorry about that.
Margie, and then Phyllis.
Yeah, maybe you mentioned this, but does this come in different languages?
Not at this time.
Okay. And might this be appropriate for someone who's experiencing grief? I mean, normal grief.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on the person and what stage they're in. But we have had clients in the past, they shortly before they started the program, they lost someone and they were using a program like this, and they took the opportunity when they're speaking with their coach to talk about that. And the coach was there to help tailor the lessons to fit that situation that they're in.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. I've had even clients that maybe cared for someone if they're caregivers. That's something that we've offered to caregivers as well.
No. Yeah. A really remarkable program. Good results. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phyllis?
So I am familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy, but I wonder if you could give us an example of a lesson. Is it all different people would have different needs coming, obviously, but maybe an example would be helpful.
Yeah, so let's use mindfulness as an example. The first element is really just wanting the client to understand what that means, generally speaking, and then later in the lesson, they would learn ways to actually implement it directly in their life. So at the very beginning of the program, they're asked to set goals for themselves. For example, we've had clients say that they're wanting to reconnect with family members or friends that they haven't spoken to for a long time, especially folks that are more socially isolated. So they make it a goal for themselves to at least try to give their child a call, in the next month. And as they go through the program, they're given those different lessons, mindfulness being an example, ways to combat unhelpful thinking. So maybe that is a barrier for them to want to even call the person that they're wanting to call, and are not really pushing themselves hard enough to do it. So the tailoring comes in when they speak with the coach. And so, okay, what did you learn? What did you learn from mindfulness? And what can you do in your life right now to at least a minute of your time to practice this exercise? And it can truly be as simple as doing yoga stretches or things like that. So taking that moment for yourself and really being mindful of the negative thoughts that you're having and ways to almost, I don't want to say suppress, but to combat it. Does that answer your question? Thank you, Phyllis.
Bruce?
Thank you. Thank you, Salma, for the presentation. I appreciated learning more about it. I've worked with Lori's Hands and have a lot of respect for them. So I think you've got some good partners. The one question I have is on the criteria, your list, the 10 or so criteria, they seem to suggest a relatively healthy older adult in the sense that people with any kind of the some of the issues you lay out on here are not likely to be candidates. So the question I have is, do you have a rough estimate? And I know you're working in different locations, but do you even have a rough estimate of what percentage of older adults are are eligible versus those who are struggling with things that would knock them off the list?
Right. I couldn't give you a general percentage or statistic, but what I can tell you, we've noticed a theme in particular service areas. So, for example, the clients that we're trying to recruit in the New York agencies area. So we work in some rural parts of New York and uh, some parts of New York City. We've noticed a lot of substance use, and that's honestly the big disqualifying criteria for most people. But as far as, exhibiting depressive symptoms or not having a terminal illness, they seem to check off the boxes, but having current substance use, or even, I didn't mention this, but if they have severe mental illness like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, psychosis, that also disqualifies them because we're just not sure how safe this program really is for them. And as far as the Michigan agencies go, I would say the biggest disqualifying criteria is when we would do the patient health questionnaire. They're just not exhibiting enough depressive symptoms, if that makes sense. So since then, we've changed the cutoff. So as you can see right here, we have 8. We've lowered it down to 5 to accommodate that. Initially, we've had, this program was only offered to folks 60 years or older. So we've had to make adjustments along the way. So now it's 50 and up. And that's something the Hannon Center and the agencies in Detroit have asked us to do. So to answer your question, I would say that the health conditions and their physical health is not really something that disqualifies most people. It's really the depressive symptoms. And when we do that patient health questionnaire, sometimes the age, and many people also may be receiving therapy and counseling. That's something that I often get when I'm making these screening calls.
Just one last quick follow-up. I mean, I appreciate that. What I was thinking is that increasingly a lot of older people are just under stress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an easy thing to measure. I understand that. And
Absolutely, yeah.
I know you mentioned, loneliness and social isolation and those kind of things. I just I think it would just be helpful overall if at some point, you guys could take into account some of those underlying causes of the stress as you think about which people to reach out to, because I think as we're finding out this year, there's so many things that are hitting older adults and their families all at once, and it's they may qualify for all of this stuff, or they may not qualify, but they may be under a kind of stress that would be really helped by your program.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And we are, we've had, especially the folks at Lori's Hands, we've had some people not qualify, but they're needing immediate assistance. And I know that the Lori's Hands folks have quite the lengthy wait list. So to leave the client with absolutely nothing, and especially if they don't qualify for a program like ours, is something that we take into account by having referral lists for them and connecting them with someone that can immediately help their situation. So whether it be housing, whether it be, needing therapy but not being able to find a new one, we are there to connect them with resources in that case. But unfortunately, at this time, because of the research nature and because we have certain criteria that we need to meet for our sponsor, this is where we're at now. But like I said, we are open to feedback, and we also have made adjustments along the way, whether it be the age criteria or the depressive questionnaire that we ask. So I appreciate your insights on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Emma, how much longer is this research project funded for?
I would say the next 2.5 years.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other questions, comments? All right, I think that's it. Thanks so much for joining us today, Salma, and talking about this program. Very, very great work.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Commission. Appreciate your time and your attention.
All right, I'm going to remove.
And Marie, would you like me to reach out with this PowerPoint and with the materials to you directly, or how should I provide this
Yeah, send
information?
it to me, and we'll take care of distributing it to the group.
Wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you,
thank
everyone.
you. Okay, so next up on our agenda is subcommittee discussions. We'll get some of the shorter updates out of the way, and then we'll camp out on updates for the older person's millage. First up is communications. Madden, did you receive any communications? Nope. I received just a couple. One that I wanted to mention today, there was a gentleman who's in one of the University of Michigan health programs, who is working with his peers to do an older adult town hall that's focused on health related things. He's going to be finalizing who their panelists are, and then he'll share that information with me. And I offered to distribute it to all of us. And then I also offered that if he needed more people during some of the breakout discussion section of their town hall, that some commission members might be willing to volunteer our time, or connect him with additional agencies to have resource tables for and that kind of thing. So town hall, would I be able to connect him with your group? Brenda?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
I will do that. The other
Marie,
communication.
Marie,
Oh yeah.
is there a date for that town hall?
He did not have a date yet. He was talking with one more panelist, and they were going to pick the date and finalize the location. They had two locations depending on dates.
Okay.
Yep.
Were they going to be in Washtenaw County area?
Yeah, yep. It's focused in Washtenaw County. It's probably going to be like one of the U of M buildings, one of their ancillary sites.
Okay.
All right. The other one I got was from Eileen Spring at Food Gatherers. Let me just pull that up really quick. It's an update on. Thought you'd appreciate reading this article dealing with how SNAP cuts will negatively impact older Americans. And then she links an article and she pulls out a quote. I'll be giving this to Katie to put in our after the meeting update. But it just talks about how specifically the SNAP food benefit cuts will impact older adults. I think that's important information for us to have.
Marie, can you text me the person's name, the information as far as the town hall that you just mentioned, so that
Yep,
in
I'm
case
going to
they
be passing that information on to you. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Town hall, any other updates that you wanted to share with this group today?
No.
Great, great. Future planning, did you guys meet and talk about anything aside from millage related topics?
We haven't. We've really been kind of on hold and taking a back seat to the millage. But there are some things that I do want to bring up, which would relate to future stuff, but I'm not sure whether we do that now or if it's part of a just more general discussion.
Um, let's do the general discussion after the millage update stuff. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
All right, awesome. Millage work group. You guys met quite a few times to help provide some feedback to the commissioners on the policy and other documents. Do you want to share anything at this point, or do you want me to start with Annie?
We didn't really meet since our last meeting, so I think go ahead and do what you were going to do, whatever that is.
Okay, great. Annie, would you mind giving an update on all the progress we've had with the senior millage since our June meeting?
Sure. We approved the millage framework, and approved the position for a director of aging services. The job position has been posted for almost a month now. And there's also an RFP out right now for transportation funding. I don't know when that, Marie, do you know when the RFP closes?
Today.
Okay. So the goal, I think the goal is to make sure that those proposals and decisions around funding, the folks who apply will hopefully be on our agenda in September so we can get the money out. That's the timeline. And then I don't really have a timeline on the director of aging services. It's going to depend on applicants, how many interviews are done. It could take some time, depending on how quickly the interview process goes. Senior centers, all 10 senior centers have at least received the contract agreement to receive the 200,000 funding support from the millage. I know a handful have already finalized those. So those are out there and those dollars will be put to use hopefully pretty soon. What else? I don't know if folks have specific questions, I can answer them.
Great.
I don't
I
know how
had
closely folks are paying them.
just two quick questions. One, I remember hearing that the RFP committee for the transportation decision, that committee needed some COA members. I did share, I talked to some COA members and I shared their names and contact information with Brady. I guess it's more of a comment than a question, but the other one, we had, this group had asked previously if any commissioners in this group could participate in the interview process at some point. Do you know if that's been discussed or decided yet?
I think at least one commission on aging member will be, just so folks know, like it's not standard practice for hiring at the county to include like outside of the organization folks. But I did talk to our county administrator yesterday about a commission on aging member, like trying to get a commission on aging member. And so those decisions haven't been finalized. But I know it's being put into the mix. And just so folks know, it's really about like privacy. Like you get access to a lot of sensitive data, like information when you go through that process of interviewing employees for a job. And so it's really for the individual being interviewed. But I think there is probably going to be a Commission on Aging member who is pulled into the mix, but it's just not typical for us to do that.
Thank you. Dina?
Annie, this is either a question for you or maybe somebody else on the commission knows. How was the RFP for the transportation funding money? How was that how was that RFP distributed, or announced?
Yeah, all of our RFPs have like an email list. And then there's also like a government RFP like avenue. I asked this question yesterday to our deputy administrator, and so there's like a place where people who are looking for RFPs can find RFPs and get notified, and then there's also the county email list. And so if you're on the email list, and I would imagine anybody who had previously received funding for senior services, I would assume that they're on our email list for RFPs because that's probably how they applied the first time. But there's a few different forms of communication, and it gets publicly posted on our website. So
Is that like through the open bids? Is that how I would find it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Brenda?
Yes, Marie, you said that you reached out to some COA members for the committee. When did you reach out? When did you do that?
I reached out maybe a week or two ago and there was just because of how short the timeline is, there was just a few that I reached out to who I know don't have, like obviously I can't be one of them because I run a transportation agency that's applying for the bid. So we went for a couple of people who have that short window of time. We knew that they would be potentially be available and that they don't have any existing monetary relationships with transit agencies.
Thank you.
Yeah. Elizabeth?
Just a quick comment about COA participation on both evaluating RFPs and participating in a hiring process. I have worked in government for most of my career, and I actually have had the experience where it's relatively common to have a subject matter expert who's outside the group participate. And I would suggest that what those groups have used when I've been involved is a very strong non-disclosure agreement, because those comments about confidentiality are quite accurate. And I think it's important to have a non-disclosure agreement in place. That usually, in my experience, that's addressed the issue. So just to share that.
Thanks, Bruce.
Sort of building on a little bit on the previous comment, maybe there's also, Annie, a way that I've been part of a lot of interviews myself over the years, and maybe given the particular importance of this person's ability to then work with and have a close relationship with the Commission on Aging, I appreciate the fact that you were advocating for at least one person. Maybe there's also, if the process suggests the possibility of having more than one finalist, that maybe we could be brought in into some way to review the final candidates in some way to offer our input. That would at least be a compromise if you can't get more folks involved from the get-go.
Yeah, I'll pass this information along. The hiring practices at the county are solely under the county administrator. So they're like the commissioners, I can make suggestions to him, but we try to stay out of the way of micromanaging the hiring practices of the county administrator's office.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Brenda?
Yes, Annie, I've heard you say that a couple of times that you're going to pass the information on. So when you do that, you're passing it on to the county administrator. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Comments, questions on senior older persons millage? All right, I think that's the shortest discussion we've had on the older persons millage ever. We're excited to see that the policy has passed and the office is being set up and that there's movement on getting all of that started. Thank you for the update, Annie. Is there anything else, since you have the floor, anything else from the Board of Commissioners that you want to share in your report, Annie?
No, I
Great.
don't. But if people have questions, reach out to me.
Awesome. Great. Bruce, let's bump it back to you. You had said that there were some other things in the future pipeline that you might want to discuss. What's on your mind?
Well, I happened to go yesterday to the AARP um, kind of celebration of Social Security, which was their 90th birthday, roughly. And also last week was the 60th anniversary of Medicare and Medicaid. Um, and I had a chance to talk with Stephanie. She was there. And also I'm somebody from Ageways. I'm not sure, maybe it was, well, anyways, we had a good conversation afterwards because I think a lot of the presentation was more of a chance for people to gather and celebrate a little bit the importance of this. But I was raising the question with folks about what what was the nature of leadership, either from AARP's perspective or from any leadership place that, given the impact and given the attacks on older adults, what what were we doing to respond to that in a more thoughtful way? And I keep bringing this up at most of the town hall meetings and things that I've been to, suggesting that things are going to get worse before they get better. And what that means basically is we need to have, I think, some strategies to really address both those short-term impacts and also the longer term. And I understand that some of the longer term work will get folded into hopefully into once the person is on board with uh, in the new position with the millage. But beyond the millage, there's just tremendous impact that goes beyond the millage's ability to deal with things. And it's not easy for anybody to be dealing with these things today, but it seems to me we need to have some greater leadership around what we can be doing. And my question really to the group is there a role? Is there a constructive and strategic role that we can play with others? I'm not saying it should be on our own, but with others to begin to um, do a number of things that are both, I think, defensive in nature. How do we begin to understand this impact? And I know there's been some information shared, and I know there's been people working on it, but also to go on the offense a little bit in terms of giving people something to believe in, that we think that there is a plan. There's a lot of really good work about what we should be advocating for in terms of older people and families and their families these days. And I think that gets lost in all of the disparate impacts that are happening. And I'm just wondering, can we can we step forward? And unlike, some other folks who I think are doing good work, but are overwhelmed right now, can we step forward and provide some leadership that would help bring this issue in front of people more, that the impacts on older adults in particular has been very, very low in its profile. There's a lot of focus on the individual impacts because of the food because of anti-poverty programs, the Medicaid. There's been so much attention on Medicaid and now on Medicare. But I really don't think that there's been a kind of, I'm looking for a word that, kind of a comprehensive look at what we need to be thinking about. And can we begin to at least play some leadership role in that is the question.
Margie?
Yeah, Bruce, I think we all know that the healthcare situation is going to get worse and worse and worse. So, how do we deal with that? I wonder if you had learned anything from your visit to the conference, AARP conference, about their strategies, or is there a way we can learn about that?
The short answer is they're obviously aware of the threats. I asked two questions like, is there anybody doing anything to begin thinking about the likely focus on privatizing Social Security, which is in the works already. But more importantly is, there's a lot of good work that went on about what Social Security could and should look like. There's been some very good work and it's already been done. It's not like we have to reinvent the wheel on this, about putting out positions and thoughts about and sharing with people ideas about what would be a better Social Security system. And I think that's been missing. I mean, we're so much on the defensive that we lose sight of what, giving people any kind of sense of hope and how they can fight back. You need to have some ideas that you can't just go on and on about. And this is what I was saying to AARP, that, it's fine that we know what the attacks are. All of us are fairly aware now across the board what the attacks are looking like, and they're only going to get worse. But what we need to give people is a little bit of hope and a little bit of some information about what they should be coming together around and what kind of pressure they can be putting on. The last thing I'll say is it's not enough to tell either AARP or our elected officials in Washington what the horror stories look like. If they don't know by now, then we're all in trouble because they're pretty well reported, the impacts, and they're only going to get worse, as I keep saying. But what we need to be giving people is some sense of what is worth fighting for. And I just don't see that right now. I know there's good work going on, and I just don't think it's being amplified. And we need to have a way to do that, particularly around older adults.
Elizabeth?
I think we might have a mechanism to provide some of that information, which is so key for advocacy. I agree with you, Bruce, that the horror stories are out there, and if they had an impact, they've had an impact. But so getting more horror stories, I don't think is useful. What we did find in our advocacy for the senior millage is having some data specific to Washtenaw County about unmet needs. And our annual report is coming up. It seems to me that we might be able to use this time between now and December to look at the impact and target a little bit. We've had consistent themes that we've been talking about in the annual report. Transportation has been one, housing has been one, nutrition has been one, for example, and focus on those same themes to draw a picture of what the impact of these changes, which are predominantly on the federal level, will have for seniors in Washtenaw County. And some of it may not be quantitative data, but maybe qualitative data. But we know folks who in the service community particularly focus on housing, particularly focus on nutrition, for example, particularly focus on transportation. And we might be able to, with the combination of interviewing some of those people and doing some research, come up with some figures specific to Washtenaw County that would be helpful to everybody in their advocacy work. And that would be a way of giving folks a tool. So that's just a thought of one thing we could do to respond to the question, what are we going to do next?
Have other people come across, particular information or tools that they found helpful? Because they're out there. I mean, things are out there. There's some really good stuff out there. And I guess I'm just not seeing it coalescing, coming together
Yeah.
in Washtenaw County. Despite the fact that I know that some of the collaboratives and some of the special initiatives are doing good work. I've been aware of that from the minute I got on the commission, that there's been good work going on. I just think somehow there's not something connecting, and maybe we could just be helpful in terms of how to bring some of that together, and make it more available to people, because the longer we wait, the harder it's going to get.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about how you see, I feel like the Office on Aging is going to have an opportunity to do what you're saying a little bit more formally, but what are your thoughts on that? How do you see that playing out with where the county and public funds are going?
Well, the one thing I said in several of the town halls, including the ones in Ann Arbor, when three of the commissioners were there, and Annie was in the audience. When I mentioned it's going to get worse before it gets better, and then I followed that up with the idea that having this initial year of the millage, which I think is sort of already de facto kind of following this pathway, but the initial year of the millage could be a year that really does try to respond to the most urgent needs that are out there, and kind of not, I would have even, and I think if transportation is one of them, food was another one. There is a set of the top two or three things that emerge as most critical, and we're trying to fill those gaps. So that's important, and I think we could be a little out of the box the first year with in recommending for the budget that it really does try to mitigate some of the worst damage and support some organizations that are doing absolutely critical work. At the same time, putting together as quickly as possible, a long-term plan for aging in the county that takes on the broader set of issues, because the millage monies are not going to begin to meet all the needs. And I think the last thing I'll say about that is that right before the election, there happened to be some great national reports that came out about where we need to go with the aging community. Biden pulled together supported some remarkable commission work that really put together a very, very thoughtful plan that really covered a broad set of things. As far as I know, it's probably just sitting there, because obviously it didn't get funded, and I don't know if anybody's able to even begin to look at it. But I mean, I read it from cover to cover, and it had great stuff in it. And that was just one document. AARP had put out a reasonably good document. There's also good things at the state level. There's a lot of good work. I don't think it ever reaches, or rarely reaches, the local level as much as it could. So my thought would be, put together some simple one-page, two-page summaries of some of this stuff, which I'm happy to help work on. I've actually done some of that a little bit already, but I think more importantly, it's how do we get some of our Washtenaw County leadership, and I'm not just talking about both grassroots leadership and elected leadership, to really focus on the impacts on older adults in this county. Because I don't think most city leadership are are particularly focused on that. And I worry that it's just going to get lost in how we begin to think longer term for what is now the majority of population in some communities. So, anyways, I could go on, but I'm just really searching for is there a role that we could play realistically? I mean, I realize we don't have a lot of resources, but it seems to me that it's only going to be more challenging if we wait and we don't get some things going.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Comments on what Bruce has brought up? Great. I mean, I think this is a really interesting discussion, Bruce, and I'm going to take you up on your offer to create some of those 1 and 2 page summaries of some of those documents and bring them to future planning, and when they're ready, bring them to the rest of us, because I think that you're bringing up really good points, and I think it could be helpful for the office and whomever they hire to get that started, right? To have some of those things to start thinking about and planning for. Yeah.
And our subcommittee, maybe now that the millage is sort of in play, maybe we could convene, talk with Margie and I forget who the third person was in our subcommittee, pardon me, but Phyllis. But Phyllis and Margie and I could at least try to get together and maybe if anybody else wants to join us, especially since the millage, and I'm not sure what will happen to the millage subcommittee, but it was a really good working group and Marta and really helped to kind of keep us on task and did some good work. So maybe we can continue that by looking down the road a little bit.
Margie, did you have something?
Yeah. Bruce, I don't know whether you've shared some of those documents with us, but they might be helpful if we had a sense of some of those ideas.
I did share some things way back last year, but I will up those were before the election. So I
Yeah.
will, and I like I said, I do have some things that I will pull together. I'm actually taking a week's vacation, so it may not be till a little later in the summer, but hopefully by mid-August, I will get something out to people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Brenda?
Yes, I have a question for Annie. Is she still here?
Yeah.
Annie, I would like to know, will the public be made aware of organizations who has received funding from the millage, the services they'll be providing, and how they qualify to receive the funding? Will that be made public?
So the public information related to how to receive funding from the millage will all happen through the RFP process. So every time there's an RFP, all the details and how to apply and what the qualifications are will be included in that. And all of our millage dollars for any millage in the county, like annually, all that information is like made available through our whole budget process. So they're all public documents, and they will likely also be posted on the commit like the I'm assuming once the Office of Aging is installed, we'll have a website similar to the Resiliency Office. But we've made changes in the last year to require regular updated dashboards on the use of the dollars. And then we'll also have the office will be responsible for annual reports. So all that information will be public.
Thank you.
Annie, I had a question for you. Do you know whether the the county is doing anything out of the ordinary to begin to assess and address the cumulative impacts on the county from the federal cuts and the federal policy changes?
Yeah, we are going through all of the details of the federal bill.
I'll just say that this senior crisis intervention
And
funding of a hundred thousand.
your sound is super weird. Yeah. We'll give you a second.
How does it sound now?
Completely normal. Great.
Okay,
Go ahead.
okay. I was going to say the senior crisis intervention funding of $100,000 has definitely made an impact on some of the things that are happening to our seniors, whether that's losing fat because they didn't submit a form or whatever the case may be. So that is definitely helping.
Do you want to say a little bit more about, so you mentioned the SKIP program got 100,000. What sorts of programs and services have you seen that go to specifically? You want to expand on that?
Yeah, so the senior crisis intervention program was opened up to the community as well. So that in the Berry Busters community. So I think there's like 80, maybe to 200 agencies in that group. Well, not agencies, but members within agencies. And so that is, let me just pull it up for you guys. So it's specifically for, I've submitted like 20 applications. So I know this better than anybody, but I just want to get the wording for you guys. So let me read it for you. Grateful to collaborate with the Housing Bureau for Seniors for emergency funding to our vulnerable populations of individuals ages 60 and above. The Board of Commissioners has allocated $100,000 for the Senior Crisis Intervention Program for 2025. The Housing Bureau for Seniors has opened it up. And so the requesting agency must be an approved Barrier Buster agency. So if you're not already on the Barrier Buster listserv group, you have to go through orientation, all that, then you don't know about this or you can't apply for it. You must, your client must be 60 or older. He must be they must be a Washtenaw resident. Must improve the client's situation. So similar to SER, like you're likely not going to get accepted if you're going to have issues in the future. Okay, we help you with June and July, but you can't pay August, right? Must be housing related, so this can be including tax payments, rental arrears, utility, other related expenses. We will say though, evictions do still want to go through the main main source of entry, which is to call that hotline, and then you get deferred to SOS. I also do evictions and work with SOS and submit those applications because I've been trained in those evictions. Income limit is 80% AMI. So for one person, I want to say that's about 60,000. So that's pretty high because the Barrier Busters income limit is actually 30% AMI. So that's about, 13,000 a year. So we expanded that. And then our limit is $3,000 annually per household. And that's the general gist of it. The other thing you should know is that the agency, the committee, sitting members on the committee that approve the requests are Jewish Family Services, Catholic Charities, Housing Bureau for Seniors, IPSI Meals on Wheels, Ann Arbor Meals on Wheels. Ageways is also on there, but they are not a voting member. And South Central Legal Services is also on there. So we all collaborate and look at the applications as they come, but it's been super, super helpful. A lot of the seniors would not get HAWK funding because the winter funding is out. And once the winter funding is out, they don't have nearly enough to help these people. We're seeing just a lot of part-time seniors losing hours, or just not being able to work, and they're not able to afford their social security, living off social security of $1,000, whatever they're getting. I think our biggest concern at housing is the massive cuts to Ann Arbor Housing Commission, um, and the surrounding commissions, that there's just no way that any county funding could ever save, 40% of the Ann Arbor Housing Commission's budget. I don't know what's going to happen to these people, but we're just taking it one day at a time and recognizing that it takes a lot more money to house somebody than it does to keep them housed, if that makes sense. Like if they're
Yeah.
homeless, it's a lot more expensive to get them back housed. So any questions, happy to answer for you guys.
Thank you
Anyone?
very much for that information. It's very helpful to understand what's going on out there, Madden. And you're seeing it firsthand. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Mandy. Mandy, did the 100,000 come from the millage or did it come from elsewhere?
It did. It did. So I always tell people, well, the seniors that can handle it, sometimes people it's just like, oh, we're not going to do this today. But I do explain to them, like, we all pay into this as taxpayers. It comes from the senior millage that we all passed in November. And they all seem to be like, oh, interesting. But sometimes they can't handle that. So, but I do try to, Annie, I know you're here. I do try to give you guys credit whenever I can.
Hey, you know how I feel. I don't need credit. I just want people to stay housed.
Anyone
Matt,
else?
do you know how much is left in
About 70.
okay,
70,000.
so interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be curious what what a appropriate amount annually would be to not run out.
I know. I wonder that as well. Because it's been about 2 to 3 months and we've blown through about 30,000 and have helped, 40 people or so. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Anyone else? Questions for Madden? Great. Thanks for the impromptu presentation there, Madden. I appreciate that a lot. I don't have anything else to report from the chair. Is any new business anyone would like to propose? I'll throw it out there that we'll hopefully have Huron Valley PACE come to our next meeting. We had hoped to have them today, and they had some other things come up, but we hope to have them next time. Phyllis?
I just wanted to invite everyone to uh, attend a mini mission at Jewish Family Services. They have these usually once a month, or it can be done on a very individual basis for people who are not familiar with all the services that are done at this agency and the new kitchen and medically tailored meals and so forth that are being developed. So if you are interested, we could go as a group, we can go as just a couple of people at a time. Let me know and I can look into it for you.
Was the date for that? If you want to send it to me, we'll put it in with the other announcements that Katie sends out later.
Okay. I think they're set up like once a month. So
Oh, okay.
the the date can be very flexible, but I'll send you the date that I know of at this point.
Great. And then Phyllis, you had also forwarded me Sue Senator Shink's annual senior summit. Do you want to share anything additional about that?
I don't really know anything more than what I sent you, but I
Okay.
thought it might be of interest to the group.
So I'll read it here because I don't know that Katie and I will be able to get an email out to you all with this information, but you can look this up online as well. Senator Shink has a annual senior summit that is happening today from 11 to 2 at Crouch Senior Center in Jackson. So if you want more information on that, you can Google it and the information will pop up. But that's from 11 to 2 o'clock today at Crouch Senior Center in Jackson. Anyone else? Future business announcements?
I just had a question and maybe somebody could help me with. The anti-poverty work under the ALICE program, are people familiar? Who in Washtenaw County is responsible for that?
The Alice program, is that what you said?
And anything to do with ALICE? Is there anybody in the county that works on ALICE has got a whole range of tools and I'm just curious if there's anybody in any organization or coalition in particular who's working on that.
I guess I never heard of the Alice program. I thought you were talking about the Alice population.
Well, it's the anti-poverty standard that goes above the usual definition. It's basically a national program and tool that's been used, and I know that it's through the United Way,
Right.
and
So
I know the United.
that's who
Yeah,
focuses on services for the Alice population a lot of times is the United Way of Southeast Michigan. I don't believe they have a dedicated, like something that you would call an Alice program. It's more, they use it more like a definition of,
right.
uh, you know, individuals in their circumstances. And so they do prioritize funding opportunities for organizations that target the Alice population.
So just a quick follow-up. So since the merger of the United Way from Washtenaw with Southeast Michigan, do you know whether there's people who are actually in Washtenaw County who are working on the reason I raise it is that it's an important standard around poverty and that the elder information in it is very weak. It mostly talks about younger families in poverty. And
Mhm.
I'm just trying to get a handle on whether it's a very useful definition. It increases the understanding of who's in poverty or near poverty considerably. And the numbers are quite different from the low official poverty standards. And so I think it's an important set of work. And you're right, it's not a program per se as much as a kind of framework. But I'm just trying to understand if anybody in particular is doing that work in Washtenaw.
I mean, there is a Washtenaw County rep for the United Way. I believe it's Bridget Herman. So and she lives locally. So she's been in the county for a while. And she was part of the United Way when it was just Washtenaw County. Um, so there is definitely somebody who is responsible for representing the county.
Okay, thank you.
Elizabeth?
My understanding is that the Michigan Association of United Ways is the entity that works in gathering the information and publishing the annual state report, which they've relatively recently published. The 2025 report. So if people wanted more information about that, that might be either a group to approach about giving us a presentation, or we could just get some more information to share with the membership. And I'd be willing to get a little more information if people think that that's something they want.
I would appreciate that, Elizabeth, just because I think the number of older people and older families that are going to be, if not in poverty already, slipping into poverty is going to be quite higher than people are than are aware right now, and I think it would be helpful.
Okay. If anybody else wants to join me in doing a little more research, that'd be great.
Katie, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if I have a lot to contribute. I'm just, thinking about the ALICE program, and I know Bruce, you mentioned that there's not a strong like subset of data specifically related to elderly, and my guess would be because that acronym it stands for asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So I wonder if like getting a more robust set of data around like older adults that are employed would then help to like further like bulk up that data, under Alice. But it might be also helpful for anyone that's looking into this to look into statistics that Michigan might have around like middle income classification, because that can be another place you might get, similar data, but that's not specifically looking at those who are also employed.
Katie, do you know if there is anybody else at the state level? I know that the Michigan League for Public Policy does great work, but again, with a big caveat, which is that there's not a lot focus on the older people, because of their work is focused a lot on younger families and kids. But is there anybody that you're aware of to say?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll throw it out there to the others on my team at Ageways, and follow up with you if we can find some more sources that you could work with.
Thank you.
Great. Last chance for new business. All right, then. Our next meeting is September 5. A friendly reminder to Marta, Jennifer, and Katie to stay on this as people leave. And thumbs up for adjourning. All right, we're adjourning at 10:28. Have a good one, everyone. All right. Jennifer, I was glad to see you be able to join us. What a struggle you had this morning.
It was, it was.
Oh, we
It wound
gotta
up
stop
there
recording.
replacing one of the towers near me that my internet connect to, and the transition didn't go that smoothly, but I'm here now.
Nice.
Send it to them to let you
Katie,
know in advance.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Katie, can you stop the recording now?
Oh, yes. Thank you for